The Tolner Rebbe in Israel, a great tzaddik, was known to bring home many guests to his Shabbat and holiday table. One year on the night of Pesach, he brought home a homeless man for the Seder. When he came home with his guest, his family noticed that the man had unfortunately, a body odor. And when it came time to have the Seder, his grandchildren were like moving away to the end of the table, not to be too close to him. Tolner Rebbe realized what was happening and didn't want this Jew to be embarrassed. So he said, tonight we have a very important guest in our home for the Seder, Yaakov, and I want to ask Yaakov to come sit with me next to me at the head of the table to help me lead the Seder. And sure enough, Yaakov sat at the head of the table next to the Tolner Rebbe throughout the Seder. The next day, the Tolner Rebbe sat down with his grandchildren and said, we could never embarrass another human being. And they said, Grandfather Zaidi, but he smelled. He had an odor. It was difficult. And the Tolner Rebbe looked at his grandchildren and he said, a Jew always smells good. A Jew always smells good. Sometimes our nostrils deceive us. It's ironic that one of the symptoms of COVID-19 is that we lose our sense of smell. But sometimes when we focus on the inner beauty of somebody, we smell their inner fragrance and their inner goodness. In this week's Torah portion, we read about the story of Yaakov. After 22 years, he's coming home and he has to confront his brother Esav. Now his brother Esav had anger towards Yaakov, and he swore that he would take revenge and kill him. And now Yaakov has to prepare to come home and meet his brother. And our rabbis tell us, based on this week's Torah portion, that Yaakov takes 3 steps to find peace and serenity with his brother. The first thing he does is he sends him lavish gifts to try to appease him. He gives him honor. He bows down to him. He speaks to him with great honor and respect. That is what we call diplomacy. On the other hand, he says if the diplomacy doesn't work, he prepared his family for a battle, a strategy of how to fight and defeat his brother Esav in battle. And then, of course, he turned to God and asked Hashem for divine assistance. And our rabbis say these are the 3 measures we all have to take in life. We always have to do everything in our power to make peace with our enemies. But if that doesn't work, we have to be prepared to defend ourselves. And of course, we always have to turn to God with heartfelt prayers, asking for His divine assistance that we should be successful. Thankfully, Yaakov's appeasement worked. And Esav, when he sees him, bowing down to him with the lavish gifts coming in front of him, sent him as a delegation. He runs towards his brother Yaakov, he hugs him and he kisses him, and peace is made. And the lesson for all of us is that sometimes anger leads to rage. Like in the case of Esav, who swore to take revenge against Yaakov. But then rage could either lead to resentment or to reconciliation. In this week's parsha, it leads to reconciliation. And we have to always see the inner goodness of someone and the inner potential and overlook those things that may be negative about the person. Someone once said, life is like a camera. You have to focus on the positive, capture the moment, and develop from the negatives. That's what Yaakov teaches us how to do, to always make peace, even with our enemies. As the Talmud says, who is a strong person? One who can turn an enemy into a friend. And Yaakov teaches us how to do that. Unfortunately, however, that's not always possible. And sometimes, no matter what we do, we cannot make peace with our enemies. And sometimes our enemies are bent on our destruction, regardless of what overtures we make towards them. And then the Talmud gives us another bit of advice. Haba lahargacha, hashkem lahargo. If somebody is coming to attack you, to kill you, you have no other choice. You must rise up and kill him. And although the most abhorrent thing for a Jew to do is kill another human being, but in self-defense, we have no other choice. As Yaakov himself says, Vayira Yaakov mi'od, vayetzer lo. Yaakov was frightened when he confronted his brother Esav, and he was distressed. And a rabbi say he was frightened lest Esav kill him or members of his family. But he was distressed lest he is forced to kill his brother in self-defense. There is nothing more that Jews pray for and desire than peace. But unfortunately, sometimes our enemies leave us no option. This past Friday, the chief scientist in Iran who's responsible for the nuclear program was assassinated. Now, no one knows if Israel carried it out or not, but yet the European Union and the UK were quick to condemn Israel for what they call this criminal act. Let's make the record clear, once and for all. Self-defense is not a criminal act. It's a moral act. It's an obligation to defend yourself and your family members. And the Jewish people have learned that from history. If there's someone to be condemned, it's those who plan and plot and scheme and devise plans to, God forbid, kill innocent people. Let the condemnation be directed at those who are deserving of it. Have a wonderful day.